In this video, I'm going to give you the secret, the strategy to integrating more than one scale on top of each other. This strategy will allow you to take the minor pentatonic, mix it with the natural minor or the Dorian or the harmonic minor. This is really the technique, and it's completely opposite of what we're all taught to do. Because you probably know that you can use the minor pentatonic with the Dorian minor, right? But very often we don't go beyond the first position minor pentatonic. We might, do some stuff over here. Maybe we got something down here, but it never becomes that total fluidity across the fretboard. But you can, and you can use the same resources that you're used to use on a strategy that doesn't work. You can take those resources, apply them to something that does work, and then get the result. It's as simple as that. And I promise you, if you start doing this, but you need some discipline to do this, because that's where we fall off the wagon very often, is that we get caught up in what we think or feel is the most intuitive way of doing things. And that's always the wrong thing when it comes to guitar. The strategy the brain picks by itself, just like boom, is very often, if not always, the most inefficient one. And what I was taught was, okay, you got the minor pentatonic, right? And you got 5 positions of that, and then you learn the 5 positions. We're already, walking out the wrong road here, just with that strategy. You got 5 positions, and we learn them, we play up and down them, right? And then we start playing with the band, or we start playing over a jam track, and we don't think about what we do, and we stick to the first position minor pentatonic forever. Or we kind of go into something else, but it never really becomes that habit of just having complete freedom across the neck. So then the next thing is that then we're told we can use the Dorian and we can use the natural minor, right? So we start to say, okay, and we can superimpose that on top of our minor pentatonic, which is really cool because it gives us a chance to use the pentatonic scale as a safe zone. So if I just, I know I can stay on most notes, right, and play that bluesy minorish sound, and then I can go out into the Dorian, and I can spice up my blues scale with the Dorian. Or I can play over a melodic minor track, not a melodic minor track, but a melodic rock track. And I can use the natural minor over the pentatonic. But we haven't even learned the Dorian yet, have we? We don't have that completely. In fact, we're not even, at 100% when it comes to the pentatonic scale. And then we try to integrate the others on top of that. And we do the same thing. We take one position and then we try to, superimpose it. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody. Never worked for anybody that I've ever heard of. Only partially we get to some amount of proficiency. But what does work is, and the reason why it doesn't work, let's just talk about that, is because we have 5 positions and they each represent a pretty big chunk of complexity. So we take, we try to learn that Dorian, the natural minor, the harmonic minor perhaps even, and it goes pretty well in the first position. Then we get to this one, and we're not completely comfortable with that position even, right? When it comes to the pentatonic scale, it's weird compared to the first one. And then we try to put the Dorian on top of that. But because it never really becomes that comfortable, we don't get to the point where we can use it effortlessly. What we need to do instead is, because instead of going in these complex, we need to look for patterns. Of course, you look for patterns, right? When you want to learn anything. Hey, can I chunk this huge amount of information down to just a couple of pieces of information? Can I find systems within this? It's something that repeats itself all over again, over the fretboard. We never do that. Why don't we do that? That's insane. That's so stupid. Instead, we have 5 individual pieces of a puzzle that looks completely different. Then we take 5 individual pieces of a minor scale puzzle of it's crazy. And then we try to combine those. So instead, what about taking the 2 top strings in the first position? So if we're in the key of A minor here, then what I can do is I can look for these minor, two stacked minors on top of each other, and I have it in the first position. And by the way, my low E string also has 1 minor third interval, and that's of course the same as the top here, right? I can go to the middle to the middle or the next position here, and I can find that in my position number 2, I had the same 2 minor intervals stacked on top of each other in exactly the same way in the 7th and the 10th fret here on the A string, and then the 7th and the 10th on the D string. And these 2 minor intervals are exactly the same, right? So already, so we're actually been learning, shapes in the vertical direction, which means that we're, without the brain getting a chance to see the systems here and the repetitions. Okay. And then let's see if we can find another 2 of these. Well, in this course, I have taken, after 40 years of experience, the 1 or 2 exercises per technique, which is sweep picking, legato, alternate picking, economy picking, or directional picking, that will mean more to your development than any other single thing that you can do. So sign up right now and let's start building some monstrous skills. Look forward to seeing you in the course. If I go to my 3rd position, I actually find 2 minor 3rd intervals stacked on top of each other, but they're skewed a little bit because of the B string anomaly, because we're not tuning in perfect 4ths all the way down, but the 2 top strings are basically tuned, so you have to move them up 1 fret, right? So instead of having your octave like that, then you have to move that last octave 1 step up, which means that when I play the same 2 minor 3rd intervals in the 9th and 12th on the G string, then I get the same in the 10th and 13th fret. But it's the same. It's the same intervals. It's the same notes, exactly. So how about the next shape? Well, I got those in the 12th. The 12th and the 15th on the low E string. And then the 12th and the 15th on the A string. Right? Just that little exercise, right? That was a pretty good exercise to play them from the 5th to the 8th on the 2 top strings. Then from the 7th to the 10th on the A and D string. Then from the 9th and 12th on the G, and 10 and 13 on the B. And then 12 and 15 on the 2 lower strings in the 12th fret, right? Right? And then they repeat again in the 5th position from the 14th to the 17th fret on the 2 middle strings, or from the 2nd to the 5th fret on the 2 middle strings. Same, right? So that's a pretty big chunk of information here. That's a pretty big chunk of the entire fretboard that right? So if I could learn to integrate the Dorian minor on top of these, how much would that be worth? Well, every single time I'm in that place on the neck, within the scale, I know exactly where the Dorian minor notes are, and they are just before my 4th finger, right? So instead of playing, I got 2 Dorian minor notes in the 7th fret on the 2 top strings, while the pentatonic being the 5th and the 8th fret on the 2 top strings in the key of A. So now, boom, 1 strike, boom, I got it, across the neck. Right? Of course that entails, or that, the prerequisite of this is that you know your pentatonic shapes all the way up, but you don't have to do that to utilize this. Because now you know that when I'm practicing this is everywhere on the neck, right? These 2 minor 3rds. So now I know how that looks. And that is a huge chunk of the entire information that I need in order to do this. I could just take another one, and you basically cover the whole freaking fretboard with the Dorian minor and the pentatonic scale. So why do we do these evil things to ourselves, trying to practice these shapes in 5 different, across? It's just amazing amount of complexity, right? So what you need to do now is that you need to take this, because you want to play over this jam track here from Elevated Jam Tracks that's in the beginning. The Dorian minor doesn't fit into that song because it's not a blues-based. It's more of a. Right? And when I do that right there, I'm using the natural minor with my pentatonic scale. I'm not doing a lot of bluesy stuff, but I could be doing a lot of bluesy stuff because it fits in the minor realm. Right? That's all pentatonic because I know where the pentatonic notes are and I can target those and get a really good result over all the chords in the progression. But I need to know where the natural minor notes are. Well, the way to go from Dorian to natural minor is that instead of having your notes in the 5th, the 7th, and the 8th fret, the two in the 7th being the Dorian extra notes, then you can take that note on the B string and move it down to the 6th fret. So now I have, instead of having this, I now have this. Right? Right? And now I can start playing around with the shapes where I have the 2 minor thirds. That is such a fast development because now my brain can see, okay, cool, we got a system now. We got that little chunk of information. I know the Dorian notes. How long does it take to learn that? Like 2 seconds. And once you've learned that, I also know the natural minor notes because it's just moving that one note to there, right? How do I go for the harmonic minor? Just move my pinky now. From the natural minor, I might move my pinky one up. But this is just a little bit of much information to practice right now. So what you want to do is you want to take the 5th and the 8th fret on the 2 top strings, and then you want to add the 6th fret on the B string, and you want to add the 7th fret on the high E string. And there you got it. That's the natural minor with the pentatonic scale. And that is such an incredible tool. This tool is the next step from using the minor pentatonic or the blues scale. That it is the next step. And you might go like, hey, I haven't even got the 5 shapes of the pentatonic scale down. I'm not moving freely in between those, but you don't have to. Because the second you start really utilizing the structures here, it'll become more and more obvious to the brain that we're dealing with patterns that evolve in the same way across the fretboard. And that will be ingrained in your fingers. So learning all the shapes, which you're never going to do really because they're not relevant, is going to be, basically navigating across the fretboard beyond vertical shapes. So stick with me here, and we'll take this to the highest level. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.